All right. Hello and welcome to Hunting for Silver Linings for this Friday, September 25th, 2020. Hosted today by myself, Corey Hart of Startup Grind Grand Rapids, right here in Michigan, in the Great Lakes region of the U.S. And we have a very special guest with us. We have Haykuhi from Gyumri, right?
Exactly.
All right. Okay. I apologize. Brought to you by Startup Grind, the world's largest startup community with 600 plus chapters in over 125 countries. We operate with a mission to educate, inspire, and connect. We do this because we do this program because we realize that the pandemic has been and will continue to be the great global leveler. And as entrepreneurs, we need to do our very best for our businesses, our teams, and our families. And to do so, we need to be informed, rational, analytical, and rigorous in our thinking. We also need to learn to control our biases as they emerge in various circumstances. Of course, everyone's welcome to join us live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday as we check in with chapter directors from around the planet. But we can also catch the recordings, as most do, at the Startup Grind YouTube channel or directly at startupgrind.com/grand-rapids. So no one has a crystal ball, but if we do keep our eyes and ears open and pay attention, we may be able to see around the bend and with some luck spot the silver linings that are around every cloud, which is why we check in with our chapter directors from around the planet. I'm really excited to have Haykuhi here from Armenia. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me today here. My pleasure.
Really interested. Half the fun is learning about the ecosystems around the planet because we love this stuff, right? We're tech geeks and we're nerds in some way or form. But the other half of the fun is learning about the chapter directors and their story. So I would love to hear your personal story, how you became a fan or involved in entrepreneurship and tech, and then also how you found Startup Grind.
Yeah, great. So I was born and raised in Gyumri. Gyumri is the second largest city in Armenia. It is considered to be mostly the cultural capital of Armenia, but recently, in recent 5-6 years, the tech scene is also being developed a lot in Gyumri. So I was studying economics for my bachelor, and for my master's, I moved to Italy at the University of Padua to study business administration. And all this finance, business administration knowledge and everything helped me a lot I had like some startup ideas, and these knowledge skills helped me to start getting really involved in different startup teams. I started also doing my internship, one of the first IT startup companies in Gyumri in my hometown. And it's like everything started 5-6 years ago only. And then I was involved in an IT company, where the startup vibes were there, and it all it's something that you fall in love with, like the startupper life. And after that, I founded my own startup. I started working with different startups to help them, to support them as far as I could, and also learn from other more experienced startuppers in Armenia. So 2 years ago, when I first learned about Startup Grind, we had a chapter in Yerevan, capital of Armenia, and like most successful startups were born and developed in Yerevan. And out of the capital, we had like that regional gap, like geographical gap in Armenia. And it was kind of planned for me. Okay, why not to have another chapter in Gyumri, in the northern part of Armenia, and help startuppers, young IT people here to like leverage their knowledge, their experience, and build their successful startups. And everyone knows that healthy ecosystem, healthy community plays a very important role in startup development. So and so last year in September, we started the chapter, and the official launch was in November, where we hosted one of the very famous Armenian startups, Gigi, CEO and co-founder, and that is how everything began.
Very cool. So you and I have been with Startup Grind around the same time then. I just started late last year myself.
Oh, great.
And did you attend the global conference in February?
Unfortunately, no, I couldn't. I was planning, okay, next year I will, and this year we have it virtual. So for sure I will.
Yeah, that's too bad, right?
Yeah.
Well, it was a lot of fun. Obviously, it was my first time as well. I even had an opportunity. So what's interesting is uh, when we were doing the directors summit after the conference, where it's just 2 days of the directors getting together. I had heard about this party that not everyone gets invited to, and it's called the Georgia House. And the chapter director and the team from Tbilisi put on this kind of secret party every year, and they rent this big house. And so I was able to go to that party, and I met just a ton of really great, directors from around the planet, and it was a really good time to speak less about tech and our ecosystems and more about learning about each other, and that was like a lot of fun. So and then I also learned about the regional conference that Georgia puts on, the chapters there put on. So that said, what are the most popular sectors in like tech for like in Armenia? And then does your region in the northern part of Armenia differ in any way from the more popular ones in the country?
Well, I will start from the last question. Actually, no, because the country is very small. The weather is very different, but the tech scene and the startup industries are pretty the same. So the most popular industries, well, it's very diverse, but like in general, the region, Armenia, Georgia, I think like the tourism industry is very developed. Like when like a couple of years ago, when every blockchain startups were very popular, some blockchain startups popped up there. And currently there is a trend of highlighting AI-based startups. So it is in health industry, it is in like currently very trendy topics. Some startups, they're helping companies to manage remote work, to manage remote learning, like learning management systems, etc. So it's pretty diverse, and we have like several startups, and like I hope I'm not running over the topic, but like recently, due to this COVID-19 situation, most of the successful startups became more successful because they could develop, they could grow their user base, they could attract more investments. And yes, so summing up, the industries are diverse. And I think that is the syndrome of having a young startup ecosystem. Because I guess when this ecosystem is getting more mature, it takes some specific direction. But for young ecosystems, I think this is typical, and that is actually normal.
So the digitization has really sped up during the COVID time here, and I just saw that. So as far as the COVID is concerned, so you have like in the entire experience of COVID in Armenia, you have as many cases as the U.S. Has any given day. So what is it like now, 8 months in to the year, for people who are on the front lines, like working, commuting, or is it popular to be working from home for most of the population?
So we had to get used to working from home and learning from home in April, starting from April mostly, when the situation got very, very bad. Yes, really, like if you compare the percentage of our population, we are only 3 million, but we had like 700, 800 new cases daily. Mm-hmm. It's actually too much for such a small country. But recently in July and August, we had like very low numbers, like maximum 100, 200 cases daily. And that is why like most companies went back to real life world. Like in September, the schools were and universities were open, but like in last week, the cases started to grow again. And there are some predictions that everything was going to go on a lockdown soon. But currently, most of the companies, started working in a real life, but most of the companies like continue working remotely. Me, myself, in a company I work, we work still remotely from home because like from the very beginning, it was actually challenging for each company, even for startups, because, you know, it's a challenge for management, it's challenge for employees to get used to new environment of working from home. But we got used to it, and that's why I believe most companies do not go back yet, thinking that now we are okay with remote working. Why not? And also you can save on some operational and office expenses.
Sure. Yeah. Right. The economics are pretty good.
Yep.
So I'm really excited to be speaking with you about your ecosystem, because it sounds like you are you're a product of the ecosystem, between you know, being at university, getting addicted and falling in love with tech and entrepreneurism, and then founding your own company, and the whole cycle. You are the picture of what we talk about and what we do every day. So on the topic of like education, so when people are interested in learning about entrepreneurship or business or tech, are the universities a good place to get those skills? And when you graduate, do you have the skills to go into business, or is there a gap that you have to fill in through other resources?
Yeah, starting from the universities, we have like economic university, engineering universities, and like I would not say that there is no gap. Gap exists, and I think like it is very kind of popular thing everywhere, because the universities, they are providing with some theoretical knowledge, but businesses, corporate world, they need some practical knowledge. But about the academic part, we are in a pretty good situation. We have very good universities which make good professionals. But of course, skills. This is why students, they realize themselves, and the universities are pushing them to start doing some internship, part-time job in the final year of their university, and it somehow helps. And mostly startup companies here, they have a habit of hiring part-time students for their marketing, for their sales, why not for development, which gives them like some practical skills for the corporate world. And also here I would like to highlight that here in Armenia we have pretty many incubation programs which are for idea level startup, or just individuals are interested in starting their own startup. They do not know where to start. These incubation programs are a good fit for them, and they are mostly open for students. And also we have universities which have their own incubators, which are specifically for their students. For example, in the American university, we have EPIC. It's one of the prominent incubators in Armenia, and American university students are doing their first steps in this startup world in the university incubator. And and we have 3-4 other major universities who have or an incubator, or some programs, not called an incubator, but something for maybe an entrepreneurial program to teach the students like how to start a business, or some networking, organizing some networking events for them, and etc.
Cool. Yeah. So that sounds like a nice, you know, a mature ecosystem, even if it it's now if say I went to university, I've been working at a career for say 10-15 years. Now I have an idea. I want to learn to code. Are there coding boot camps? Are there places that I can go and upskill outside of what I might have learned in industry or whatnot?
Yes, actually, it would be the best thing you could hear. We have not. It's not popular for like adult people to go to the university, but there are lots of training centers, IT hubs, which are teaching coding, software development, etc. And and yeah, here like the demand of this specialist is very high. So if you are even a junior developer, you will not face too much difficulties to find a job for you. So that's pretty good career path here, and that is why like most young students, maybe they graduate the economic university, but they take like 6 months of coding course and they start working as a software engineer.
Sure.
So this is very typical path for young graduates and for adults as well.
Okay, that's awesome. So, yeah, we often like to learn about the talent situation. So, now is the mindset. So, let's say I've started. I have an idea. I have a startup. It's got some traction. I'm like the idea is good. I have some customers. I need to hire talent. Is the mindset to first look near home, like within the region, and then and then if I can't find talent, I have to outsource from, say, India, Central South America, Ukraine, Bulgaria, Georgia, or is there enough talent inside Armenia? Is the mindset people want to keep things close to home?
Yeah, the latest option. So yeah, there are enough specialists, and the Armenian companies are mostly keen to hire Armenians to work for them. First, it's mentality. First, it's mindset, because they want Armenians to work for an Armenian company. Secondly, it comes from the economic situation. Like if you compare the salary ranges, Armenia is pretty not expensive country to hire developers. So if you hire a developer outside of Armenia, most probably you need to pay much more than you could pay from an insider, if we call like that. So first of all, it's the mindset that we have the professionals, why not to hire them? And secondly, it's economically more like beneficial to the companies.
Okay, that's awesome. So, and that's awesome, and it's also rare. So that's really great to hear. Now, so I have my idea. I've got my customers. I've got some traction. I've hired my fellow Armenians to work at my company because I'm keeping it in the family, keeping it in the country. It's time to raise money. Is it popular to start with the friends and family, or is there some government programs that are easy to access? Angel groups, what does that look like?
Well, this part of raising money is a little bit complicated here. So friends or family somehow works, but not for a majority. We have like several venture funds which fund Armenian startups, but still you can count on your fingers how many startups they fund. One of the most popular scenarios is like they have an IT company, they are doing outsourcing, for example, and they also develop their own product as a startup. So it means that they have all the resources, they have the people working there, they have the money, they have the other needed resources, and they are growing that product inside the company. So this is one of the most popular scenarios in growing a startup company here.
All right. And since there isn't a lot of investors just walking the streets to get money from, are there some people having success getting investment from outside the area, or so like from the region? Is it popular to have funds from, say, even the US or Europe coming in to find stars to invest in?
Yes, actually we have such startups who could raise money from US, from Europe, and I can speak about one of them. and also it got very popular during this COVID situation. One of our most successful startups, Crisp, it is a noise canceling startup. So like when you turn on Crisp during your video calls, no one will hear all the noise around you. So they were successful even before COVID-19, but when this COVID-19 situation appeared, like everyone was working from home, having lots of Zoom calls, or students were studying from home. So the product got really popular. It like increased its user base a lot, and thus it could attract more investments during this COVID-19 time. So yeah, startups here do raise money from outside of Armenia, but like it's very like 4-5 cases maybe in a year. So we still will need some improvements here, I think.
So for the outside investors to come in and invest in a local startup, say like your startup, if you were raising money, is it what are the property rights at the at the government level? Is it pretty secure and safe to do these investments?
It is considered to be safe, but like in most cases, when Armenian startup is raising money from US, let's say, they register the company in the US to get funding as a US-based company. So this is another actually legal or political thing maybe, but it is one of the main problems that the startups are facing.
Okay. Are there programs like it's becoming fairly popular for like digital nomad visas or entrepreneurship visas to encourage foreign entrepreneurs to come in and start their companies in different countries? For example, like in Chile, if you land and you have an idea, within 2 weeks you can have your 1-year visa. They'll set you up at a co-working space. They'll give you $20,000 US, and they help build your network. I mean, is this something that's happening, or is it in talks of happening in Armenia?
I would not say it is actually happening, but it is like something there. Yeah, there are lots of talks around them. Like in Armenia, I said the population is 3 million, but have 1 million diaspora outside of Armenia. So what the government is doing, they are trying to attract diaspora Armenians to come back to Armenia and start their own business. And they are using different tools to attract them. They are giving them some benefits just to attract them to come back to Armenia with their families and start their business. So for diaspora Armenians, this works. There are pretty many projects here. Just not for a startup, it can be a traditional business for them to start. But yeah, there are some kind of support programs for diaspora Armenians here. For others, not yet.
Okay, because as you mentioned, like tourism is quite a good industry, and oftentimes we're seeing that those with high levels of tourism and that are inexpensive to visit and spend a long time in. You have these digital nomads that are out there seeking out safe places, especially within COVID. They're like looking for places that will allow
not Armenia for COVID, but for other aspects, yeah.
Yeah. So now, is there a lot of coordination in the region? So like the Armenian startup ecosystem is quite respected in the globe, but as is Georgia's also. So is there a lot of companies maybe working together, or they have different branches in the region, or how does that look?
Actually, yes, there are connections. First of all, geographically, it's very close. And also like Armenian startups, when they start expanding outside Armenia, they choose like CIS countries, former Soviet countries. And yeah, we have like one of our most successful and popular startups, Gigi. It's kind of Uber. So they started in Armenia, they succeed here, they moved to Georgia. Now we have Gigi Georgia. Then they came to San Francisco.
Okay.
So like Caucasus countries, CIS countries are mostly the first destinations for startups to expand, and also US is pretty attractive market. Oh, actually, I guess for every country, but mostly California is, as we have lots of Armenians there, the diaspora I was speaking there, so it is kind of a support for Armenian startups to move there as well.
Back to the investment landscape. So, what is maybe the biggest or what kind of investment is the biggest challenge? Is it that small angel round, or is the biggest challenge the follow-on round, or like Series A? Like, what would be the biggest opportunity for funds outside of Armenia to come in and help solve that problem?
Well, it may sound surprising, but even pre-seed funding is a problem for lots of startups. So the incubation acceleration programs, which are providing this kind of seed funding, they are providing very small amount of money, calling seed funding, but actually it's just not enough to like build an MVP. So starting from seed funding, this is the first level of the challenge that startups are facing, but mostly in the cases when startups successfully raised seed funding and did Series A, after it kind of, they are in the loop, and after it investments are coming easier. So the most difficult part, I guess, is the first or second steps to attract those investments.
Sure. Well, I think as you grow your startup grind chapter, and people have more opportunity to become like known and famous, right? Hopefully that makes it easier. It helps when people notice.
That's what we are working towards. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's very interesting. So as the chapter director, you are kind of the mayor of your community's startup ecosystem. What are some of the more popular questions that you've been getting these last few months from founders, entrepreneurs, or other people in your community?
Yeah, so the most trending question to make, like actually for startups, the team matters one of the most. But for, you have an idea, you are like the product man of your startup, then you have another friend who is like the marketing man, and you need a developer. So this is one of the first challenges that a person having a startup idea faces, how to find teammates. And in most cases, they end up gathering friends as a startup team, and then they fail, because doing friendship is another thing, doing startup is totally another thing. So this is one of the most popular concerns and questions: how can we find a teammate? And the other thing was networking and like learning. How can I learn more? Who can I learn from? Because in Yerevan, in capital, we have like pretty developed ecosystem with incubators, all these networking events, etc. But in regions, in Gyumri, we do not have those much. And like the young people from outside of Yerevan, they are like they have the lack of these opportunities. So actually, that was one of the main reasons I decided to start the chapter, as I said. So that is why we try to promote those networking events, networking activities through our events, through our pitch competitions that we organize, etc. And the third one that is trending a lot in the concerns or questions, it actually is about funding. So how can we find the seed funding? And to do so, the most popular way is to take part in an incubation program. But as I said, the seed funding provided there in most cases is less than a needed seed funding for a startup to take off the ground.
That's are you familiar with the startup programs for students and then also the startup program at Startup Grind?
Yes, sure. We have 6 Armenian startups engaged in the startup program. And yeah, I was very happy yesterday just to learn about the student program. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I just learned about it at the same time. So, yeah,
because it's very new.
yeah, and but I'm excited to start talking about it because we do have in my city we have 6 colleges and universities, and each one of them has programs for entrepreneurship, but not all of them are great. So
Yeah.
In the U.S., it is amazing how many students graduate with a significant gap in skills, especially for how expensive education is here. And so, um, I get really excited when certain resources like this become available. So,
Exactly.
so did you hold were you part of the global pitch battle?
Before the global pitch battle, we had a local edition of pitch battle, and yeah, three winners got accepted to the program. They were not selected to pitch for the global pitch battle, but still, I believe that the participation in the program, the resources, network, mentorship they receive there will be like very beneficial for them. And I'm looking forward to spread the voice about student program, because yeah, that would be a great opportunity for students to exploit more of their potential, which they cannot do locally here, but now virtually they can do.
Um, so you mentioned that so in Armenia, people like to keep their teams Armenian if possible. You mentioned that there's a significant amount of talent and that becoming educated is not difficult as far as upskilling. You mentioned that there is a bit of a challenge to finding network, and that's one reason why you started the chapter. So what are the popular ways for people to find that co-founder or find the skills? Is LinkedIn a thing? Do you have a Techstars 500 startups? Like how are people finding each other until they find you?
Well, actually, it mostly happens, as I said, if they start a new product inside an existing company, the startup team becomes a company team. Some of the staff members, for example, in some cases, friendship works for business as well. But yeah, or social media or other networking events, like inside the community, we all know each other and we know who is good at what, and we have an idea, we can pitch it, we can attract team members, and it works. But like as a very institutional thing, we do not have a website where you can like if we were talking inside our startup grind team to create a Tinder for startuppers where they can find teammates. Actually, we are working on that project, and I hope we will launch soon, because actually, yeah, that was the main problems, and we hope to solve it. Not like a Tinder, but somewhere where you can like find teammates. If you need a marketer, you can find a marketer, talk to him or her, and see if you are a good match for a startup team. So yeah, we are working on such a project, and and also just on the top of that, we are creating a startup database for Armenian startups, just for other people who are interested in these startups in this region. You can just look for like startups. You can filter them, what industry you're interested in. You can contact the founders. You can join the team. You can invest in them. So basically a database with lots of information about all Armenian startups, which I believe will be very beneficial for local startups and also for other people who are interested in Armenian ecosystem as well.
That's really great. I'll be reaching out to you for access to that. That's exciting to hear about. There's a chapter director in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who has a startup that helps identify people that you should be connected to. So rather than like a LinkedIn, which is like, oh yeah, you might know this person because you're like second degree connection or something like that. This is, he has developed an AI that pairs, it's kind of like the dating thing, but not, it looks at the different skills, looks at the different opportunities, looks at age, all these different psychographic details. It might be fun for you to connect with him and learn about what they put together.
Yeah, I would love to.
So Baton Rouge, Louisiana is his chapter. So
Thank you.
Great. So and that's one of the fun things about doing about 60 of these things now, of checking in with different chapter directors, because now every single time I'm like, oh, you should be talking to so and so because they're doing something pretty cool.
Exactly.
Anyway.
It happens every time I talk with a chapter director. No matter what we talk about, we can find some new connections during the conversation. And I really love it about Startup Grind.
Yeah. So, and that's a good place to end it. We always ask one last question, and because there are 600 chapters, in 120 some countries and more now, like the new cohort is adding countries and another, 60 some chapter directors, which is really great. We're all very busy in our own ecosystems, especially with COVID, and helping our startups that are in our own backyards. We don't often or always or as much necessarily think about, what's happening in other communities. So I like to ask everyone, what can Startup Grind globally, all the directors around the planet, what can we do for Haykuhi? What can we do for your chapter?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I am trying to distinguish between what Startup Grind is doing for our chapter and what directors can do. And I just remembered a case a couple of days ago. One of our startups, they needed consultancy in their marketing and sales. And I just typed in our Slack, one of our Slack channels, and 5-6 directors DM'd me, wow, I have experience in marketing, I can consult your startup. So that was actually very real support, which I really appreciate their time and their dedication to help in the field that they are experienced with. Apart from that, the networking opportunity that now we can talk to each other, being thousands of kilometers away from each other, and making suggestions why you can connect these people who can help you in this. So this is actually what really helps, because all these virtual events which started happening due to COVID, this is the part I love about COVID, it had our directors more connected, because otherwise we would connect during the conferences or some meetings. But now we have opportunity to attend each other's events a lot, to talk to each other's, and like the real support and kind of help to each other is what I feel on our chapter startups, and which we are also very open to support as much as we can.
Well, that's awesome. Well, if you do think of anything in particular, feel free to reach out at any time. Slack is always great. I don't really it's so busy. There's so many things going on Slack. I can only check in like once a week and try to see what's going on. But yeah, I've been able to reach out to and connect with a lot of folks. So if there's anything that you might ever need, just feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to
Thank you.
help and
You
point.
too.
Yeah, and then great. Well, I'm so grateful for how generous you have been with your time today, and really appreciate the insights. I personally have learned a lot, and so I'm certain that the other directors are going to be really grateful for the time you took today to talk about your ecosystem and what's happening.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation, for hosting me, and that was really interesting. And also it is the case when questions make you to think once again about something that you haven't thought recently. So And actually, if it would be interesting, we are also conducting research on Armenian startup ecosystem. So I would love to share it with you later when we have it finalized. There we will see more insights, more statistical numbers about Armenian startups and the ecosystem itself.
Yeah, it's really important to keep that data and to keep updating it. In our region, we have 2 organizations in the Great Lakes region that do a really good job. Unfortunately, the data doesn't tell a great story. It tells, but it does show the opportunities, right? Challenges are just opportunities. They're just different words or the same words. But anyway, I'd love to hear about what's when you have that data, when you have that analysis. I'd love to hear that. So,
I will share it.
All right, Haykuhi, thank you so much, and have a good weekend. Okay.
Thank you. You too.
Ciao.
Bye bye.